few months ago, we made a podcast on a particular talking point that this Nigerian brother has said about women in East Africa preferring white men. If you guys remember this clip, it went viral all over Africa, and he said this.
Kenya, Uganda, and Burundi, East Africa. What is happening in your country? I know they don't get white Christmas in this country, but it is snowing heavily. You all love the white men. What is happening? Your mothers be telling you stay away from Nigerian men, stay away from Nigerian men, but it's okay for you all to be with the Santa Claus. Merry Christmas.
And people can believe that is true or false. I mean, hey, you can believe what you want to believe. But the residential tourists also talked about this same issue happening in Mombasa. And they said when they lived there, they saw a lot of this.
Why do we keep seeing Santa Claus with these young women?
Beautiful, right?
Beautiful. But y'all see? Beautiful Kenyan women.
Beautiful Kenyan women. Young.
20, in their 20s somewhere. Definitely in their 20s. Either be, I don't want to say teenagers, but
no, not teenagers.
Somewhere in their 20s.
Right. Yeah,
beautiful models walking around.
Right.
With Santa Claus.
A lot of old, and this is no exaggeration, a lot of old Caucasian men.
Sex tourism and older Europeans coming to Africa is almost synonymous for some people as peanut butter and jelly. That doesn't mean that it's true, but it's not as uncommon as you think, especially in countries like Kenya or the Gambia. But I never heard about it in Ghana until this particular sister dropped this video about what this young white man was doing in Ghana.
I want to talk to you today about something that happened in Ghana to a young village boy. And if you are in Ghana or you're in any developing country, and you know these foreigners, specifically white males, come to Ghana or come to your country and offer you help and support for your child and give you all of this help and support and love and attention and all of that, you need to be really careful. Often they are wolves in sheep's clothing. This little boy, very, very intelligent boy, this white man came to a village in Ghana. I can't identify the boy and I can't identify the village or the man who was involved, to be honest. But he went to go and ask the mother of this boy if he could help her to pay the child's school fees. And the mum agreed, accepted, said fine. He started showering them with gifts and money, and you know he even bought the father a car. You know, it got to a point where he was buying everything for the child, and the parents were so happy. He felt so blessed. Kept on thanking him and treating him like a king, eating, giving him food, and it got to a point where he was living in their house. And he was paying all the bills, and he was fixing up the house, fixing up the land, making the house look all nice and posh. And everybody was like, in the local area, was like, wow, you know, what's going on? This guy has come, he's like a savior. He was helping everybody in the area. People were so grateful. Anyway, this man eventually said that he was going to take the child to the UK and let him come and live with him, and the parents agreed. They said fine, let him school in the UK, we're so grateful, we're so happy. Anyway, to cut a long story short, it turned out that this man was actually a the little boy was 14 years old at the time. When the child turned to 16, he came out and said that he was in a relationship with this man and they were going to get married. It's funny that this stuff was never on the news, never been on the news. It's a local story that I got to know through a very close friend of mine. And this man has never been to jail. Up to now, he's never been to jail. I don't know where he is actually, but as far as I know, he had never been to jail. I've seen the man's face before. I don't have his picture. Otherwise, I would just put this man on blast, to be quite honest. But I've seen the man before, and the whole story. I spoke to the family, and they told me the whole story. It turned out that this boy was in a relationship with the guy from the age of 13.
Shout out to the sister. Her name is Abina Talk Africa. Go and check out her channel. I wasn't expecting the ending to that story. I mean, because it seems like you had a white person coming to Africa. He was given some money. He's telling the mother, I could take your child over to the UK and get him educated. And a woman who probably doesn't have any opportunity, take it up as an offer, not thinking about the intentions. And to be fair, I've heard about whites in Uganda doing great things. I know at least of a few people who've got a scholarship from their white adopted mother or father. I have a chef who has white adopted parents that played a great role in his life. He looks at them as a mother and a father and talks to them every day. So yeah, you do have, great people that are European or non-black that do amazing things on the continent of Africa. But the problem is that when these things happen in Africa, they go unnoticed when things are horrible. And this is something that's very concerning for me, for the fact that this young child, according to this lady, was turned out to be gay. That kind of concerns me. It reminds me of like a prison documentary or something like that as grooming. And what it is, in my honest opinion, is just that people believe that white people are better. What I've noticed here on the continent of Africa is people tend to believe that their way of doing things is always wrong, and foreigners or white people's ways of doing things is always right, especially if it's white. White literally equals right. And, people will open heaven and earth up for a Caucasian over somebody black. I can tell you, I might have, what they consider African-American privilege in Africa, if there is such a thing. But white privilege is crazy. I've been in restaurants where I know the white person doesn't have what I have. I've seen people that are white that are broke that get served before me. I used to go to a particular restaurant in the Acacia Mall. It's the most popular one in there. You'll figure it out. There was a Caucasian guy that was from Canada. And this is before I moved here. I would visit like every 3 months or whatever, but I would always see him. And whenever I would see him, he would only have a water or a coffee. And that indicated to me that he most likely was dead broke. He used the free Wi-Fi and things like that. He told me he had lived in Vietnam before. He had lived in some other places before, but he had a Ugandan roommate. Let me tell you how I already met him. I was in the business meeting one day with a young lady, and he just came up and joined the seating where I was at. He just sat there and introduced himself to both of us. So the lady leaves. I said, yo, man, like, why did you come to where we were at? He's like, oh, because I could tell that you are not interested in her at all or whatever. Like, you are not on a romantic date. But he was interested in her. So I thought that was weird. I mean, I didn't take any offense to that at the time. I wasn't even thinking about that because I wasn't really interested in the chick. I was there trying to, do something different. So he told me he was writing a book at the time about how he has slept with over 300 women in Kampala, Uganda. And he did it largely with no money. He wanted to tell everybody his story about how he was able to sleep with 300 or so ladies in this city. And I was thinking, what black person from America that is poor could come here and do the same thing? Not that you want to do the same thing because you don't, but you just can't because, you would be insane to believe that a black person can get that kind of trust or level of trust here. And although you might be black American and that does help, the trust that other people get, leave me out of it, then they do for each other, it is insane. White people get the doors wide open, and what you're not understanding is that you allow yourself to be used. See, a lot of people on the continent of Africa have not really dealt with white people like on a day-to-day basis, like some of us who've lived in the UK, Australia, or the States. We are more understanding of maybe what some of their motives may be, and we can understand what they may want to try to do. But a person from Africa who doesn't really understand, somebody's trying to come around your kid, you're thinking that person is nice. And if you're poor, oh, this is God trying to help me. God is blessing me. God is doing this. Then your son turns out to be, something that you probably didn't want. And this man has married your son. He has groomed your son the whole time. You basically allowed him to adopt your son and turn him into something else. Unfortunately, this happens in a lot of remote villages, I hear, especially in many parts of Africa. People disguise themselves as NGOs, and then a lot of people look forward to these people that come and they give things and they give free stuff and they're out there helping. That's why in certain parts of the country, I'm not going to mention what part of the country, but it's hard to develop some level of the private sector there because people are looking for people to come and just give them stuff. And usually when somebody gives you something, It's not for free. There's nothing for free. So I hope that the brothers and sisters of Africa understand that when people come bearing gifts and wanting to help you for some reason, you should always ask yourself, what do they want? So guys, that's my time. O'Shea, back at it again. Fair use, we out.